Commander Zixthak stared at the screen in front of him. His four eyes blinked slowly as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The green glow of the sensor display showed something that should not exist. "Commander, are you seeing this?" Lieutenant Quinder asked. The young crystalline officer's voice carried worry through the bridge of Nexus Prime. His transparent body flickered with nervous energy. Zixthak had been watching the edge of space for 27 years. He knew every rock, every piece of debris, every dead ship that floated in the outer rim. Nothing surprised him anymore. Until now. "Run the scan again," he ordered, his voice steady despite the confusion building in his mind. The sensor sweep completed its cycle. The reading remained the same. A ship-sized object was moving through the dead zone at impossible speed. The energy signature was unlike anything in their databases. "Sir, the computer cannot identify the vessel type," reported Tech Specialist Vornix from his station. The insect-like being's mandibles clicked nervously. "The energy pattern does not match any known species." Zixthak moved to the main display. His tall gray form cast a shadow over the control panel as he studied the readings. The object was big, really big, and it was moving toward Union space. "Where did it come from?" he asked. Quinder's fingers danced over his console. "The trajectory shows it emerged from Sector 7749. That's deep in the dead zone, sir." The dead zone. Zixthak felt a chill run through his spine. No one went there. No one had been there for 3,000 years. The stories said it was cursed. Empty, filled with the ghosts of an ancient war. "Sir, should we alert the Council?" Quinder asked. Zixthak thought about it. The Galactic Council did not like false alarms. They especially did not like reports about impossible ships from dead sectors of space. But this was real. The sensors did not lie. "Not yet," he decided. "Let's see what we're dealing with first." The unknown ship continued its approach. As it got closer, the readings became even more strange. The energy output was massive, far beyond what any current Union ship could produce. The hull design was unlike anything in their records. "Commander," Vornix called out, "I'm detecting weapon systems. Many of them, and they're active." The bridge fell silent. An armed unknown vessel approaching from the dead zone was everyone's worst nightmare. The last time something like this happened, entire star systems had gone dark. "Defensive positions," Zixthak ordered. "Raise shields and prepare to send a warning transmission." But before anyone could act, the unknown ship did something unexpected. It slowed down. Then it stopped, holding position just outside the sensor range of Union space. "It's not attacking," Quinder observed, surprise clear in his voice. "No," Zixthak agreed. "It's waiting." For several minutes, nothing happened. The unknown ship sat motionless in space, while the crew of Nexus Prime tried to figure out what to do next. Then, without warning, every communication system on the station began to receive a signal. "Incoming transmission," Vornix reported. "It's on all frequencies." "Put it through," Zixthak ordered. The main screen flickered to life. Instead of an image, they heard sounds. Strange, rhythmic sounds that seemed almost like speech, but in no language any of them recognized. The universal translator tried to process the signal, but kept failing. "Translation systems are overloading," Vornix reported. "The language structure is completely unknown." The sounds continued for nearly a minute. Then, suddenly, the transmission changed. The unknown language faded, replaced by something else. Something that made every being on the bridge freeze in shock. "Greetings, unknown. Station. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel USS Liberty. We come in peace and request permission to enter your space for diplomatic contact." The words came through clearly in perfect galactic standard, but that was impossible. The voice belonged to a species that did not exist. Did he say Earth? Quinder whispered. Zixthak's mind raced. Earth was a myth. A story told to children about a world that existed in the ancient past. The home of creatures called humans who had fought a great war against monsters from beyond the galaxy. Both species had destroyed each other completely, leaving only empty systems and old stories. That's impossible, Vornik said. Humans are not real. They're just legends. But the ship was real. The transmission was real. And the voice asking for diplomatic contact sounded very much alive. Sir, Quinder said, his voice barely above a whisper, what do we do? Zixthek looked at the sensor display again. The ship waited patiently, making no threatening moves. Whatever it was, whoever was aboard, they were following proper first contact protocols. We follow procedure, he decided. Open a channel. The communication system crackled to life. Zixthek took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. Unknown. Vessel, this is Commander Zixthek of Galactic Union Monitoring Station, Nexus Prime. State your species and your business in Union space. The response came immediately. Commander Zixthek, I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the human species. We have been away from galactic affairs for some time and wish to re-establish contact with the galactic community. Human species. The words hung in the air like a challenge to everything they thought they knew about the universe. Sir, Quinder said quietly, humans are supposed to be extinct. Dead for 3,000 years. Apparently not, Zixthek replied. He keyed the microphone again. Captain Morrison, are you claiming to be human? The humans of the ancient legends? There was a pause. Then the voice came back, calm and certain. We never left, Commander. We were just waiting for the right time to come home. The bridge of Nexus. Prime fell completely silent. Outside, the impossible ship waited in space, carrying beings that should not exist. Beings whose return might change everything. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the alien space station grow larger on the main screen. His crew worked quietly around him, each person focused on their tasks. After 3,000 years, humanity was about to make contact with the galaxy again. Distance to the station? Morrison asked. 200,000 kilometers in closing, reported navigator Tony Clark from his position. The young officer had trained his whole life for this moment, though he had never quite believed it would happen. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant moved to Morrison's side. Her dark hair was pulled back in regulation style, and her uniform was perfect. She had been Morrison's second in command for 5 years, and he trusted her completely. The alien crew seems nervous, she observed, studying the communication data on her tablet. Their transmission patterns show stress markers. Morrison nodded. He had expected this. According to Earth's historical records, humanity had been gone from galactic affairs for over 3,000 years. To the current galaxy, humans were probably just old stories and legends. Dr. Foster, how are the translation systems working? Morrison called to the ship's linguistics officer. Dr. Amanda Foster looked up from her station. She was a small woman with bright eyes and quick hands that never stopped moving over her controls. She had spent 15 years preparing for this mission, studying every piece of alien communication Earth had intercepted. The basic translation is working well, she reported. Their language has evolved since our last contact, but the core structure is the same. I can handle simple conversations, but complex ideas might be difficult. Morrison understood. 3,000 years was a long time. Languages changed. Cultures changed. The galaxy they were returning to was not the same one humanity had left. He thought about Earth's long isolation. After the war with the Devourers, humanity had been broken. Entire colonies destroyed. Billions dead. Earth itself had been attacked, and only luck and sacrifice had saved it. The survivors had made a hard choice. They pulled back to the Sol system and built defenses around it. They made the system look dead to outside observers while they healed. and grew strong again. Generation after generation had worked toward this day. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Carl Hudson from the engine room through the communication system. "All systems are running perfectly. The new quantum drives are holding steady." Morrison smiled. The Liberty was the most advanced ship humanity had ever built. It carried technology that had been developed during the long isolation. Weapons, shields, and engines that were far beyond anything they had possessed during the Devourer War. "Sir," Grant said quietly, "are you sure we should reveal so much about our capabilities?" It was a good question. The Liberty was just one ship, but it represented 3,000 years of human development. If the aliens were hostile, showing their technology could be dangerous. "We need to be strong enough to be respected, but peaceful enough to be trusted," Morrison replied. "It's a difficult balance." The communication system crackled to life. The alien commander's voice came through the speakers, careful and formal. "Captain Morrison, we have contacted our superiors. They wish to know more about your ... situation." Morrison picked up the microphone. "Commander Zixtek, I understand their concern. We have been away from galactic affairs for a very long time. Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss matters properly." There was a long pause. Morrison could imagine the discussion taking place on the alien station. Humans were supposed to be extinct. Now one of their ships was asking for a face-to-face meeting. "Captain," the alien commander finally replied, "my superiors are sending a diplomatic vessel. They request that you remain in your current position until it arrives." "Understood, Commander. We will wait." Morrison closed the communication channel and turned to his crew. "Well, everyone, this is it. First contact with the galaxy in 3,000 years. Dr. Foster spoke up. "Captain, I've been analyzing their communication patterns. They're scared, but also curious. The word human is causing a lot of discussion on their station." "Scared of us?" Grant asked. "Not exactly scared of us," Foster explained. "Scared of what we represent. According to the old stories they probably know, humans were warriors. Fighters who could battle the Devourers when no one else could," Morrison understood. "The humans of 3,000 years ago had been hard people. The war had made them that way. They had learned to fight because they had no choice. But the humans of today were different. They had learned other lessons during their isolation." "Sir," Navigator Clark reported, "I'm detecting multiple ships approaching. Large ones." Morrison looked at the tactical display. 6 alien vessels were coming toward them, moving in a defensive formation. They were keeping their weapons powered, but not targeting the Liberty. "They're being careful," Grant observed. "Smart of them." The lead alien ship was massive, easily twice the size of the Liberty. Its design was elegant, with smooth curves and flowing lines. It looked more like art than a warship. "Incoming transmission from the diplomatic vessel," Dr. Foster reported. "Put it through," Morrison ordered. A new voice came through the speakers. This one was older, more formal. "Human vessel. I am Ambassador Velmer of the Galactic Union Diplomatic Corps. I have been sent to conduct first contact protocols with your species." Morrison straightened his uniform. This was the moment that would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. "Ambassador Velmer, I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing Earth and the human colonies. We are honored by your presence and grateful for this opportunity to reconnect with the galactic community." "Captain Morrison," the ambassador said, "I must ask you directly, are you truly human, the species from the ancient legends?" Morrison looked around his bridge. His crew watched him, waiting for his answer. The words he spoke next would echo across the galaxy. "Yes, Ambassador, we are human. We never died. We never left. We have been waiting in our home system, growing stronger and learning wisdom. We are ready to return." The silence that followed stretched for long seconds. Then, the ambassador spoke again, wonder clear in his voice. "Captain Morrison, you have just changed the galaxy forever." High Chancellor Mordith stood in the center of the great council chamber on Centauri Prime. Her ancient form glowed with soft blue light as she addressed the emergency session. Around her, representatives from across the galaxy sat and worried. "Silence. The reports are confirmed," she announced, her voice carrying the weight of 5,000 years. "Humans have returned to our galaxy." The chamber erupted in noise. Dozens of species began talking at once, their voices mixing into chaos. Some sounded excited, others worried, and many simply confused. War Marshal Groktar rose from his seat, his massive reptilian form towering over the other delegates. His scales were dark green, and his eyes burned with suspicion. "This is impossible," he declared, his deep voice cutting through the noise. "Humans died out 3,000 years ago. Everyone knows this. They destroyed themselves fighting the Devourers." Chief Scientist Lumiara floated up from her position, her body made of pure light shifting colors as she spoke. "The evidence is clear, War Marshal. The ship exists. The beings aboard it claim to be human. We must accept what our sensors tell us." "But what does this mean for us?" asked Representative Korthup, a small furry creature who spoke for the merchant guilds. "The old stories say humans were dangerous, violent. They could fight when no one else could." Mordith raised one long arm for silence. She was the oldest being in the chamber, old enough to remember when the human legends were still fresh memories. "I was young when the humans disappeared," she said quietly. "But I remember the stories my elders told. Humans were indeed warriors. But they were also builders. They created things. They solved problems. They did not fight because they enjoyed it. They fought because they had to." Meanwhile, light years away, Captain Morrison stood in the observation lounge of the USS Liberty. Through the large windows, he could see the alien diplomatic ships that surrounded them. Dr. Foster worked nearby, studying the constant stream of communications between the various alien vessels. "They're talking about us constantly," she reported. "Every frequency is full of discussion about humans and what our return means." Morrison nodded. He had expected this. According to Earth's records, humanity had been a major force in the galaxy before the Devourer War. Their disappearance would have left a big gap. "What are they saying?" he asked. Dr. Foster frowned as she listened to her equipment. "It's mixed. Some are calling us the legendary warriors and the Devourer fighters. Others are using terms that translate roughly to ghost ships and ancient nightmares." Lieutenant Commander Grant joined them, carrying a tablet full of reports. "Sir, we're receiving requests for information from over 30 different species. They all want to know the same things. Are we really human? How many of us are there? Why did we come back now?" Morrison considered this. Earth had been very careful about their return. The Liberty was just one ship, sent to test the waters. If things went badly, they could retreat back to Sol System and wait longer. But if things went well, humanity could rejoin the galaxy. They could share their knowledge and learn from others. They could help protect the galaxy from future threats. "Sir," Dr. Foster said suddenly, "I'm picking up a priority transmission from Centauri Prime. It's addressed directly to you." Morrison moved to the communication station, put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what looked like a massive council chamber. An ancient being made of blue light stood in the center, surrounded by dozens of different alien species. "Captain Morrison," the being spoke, "I am High Chancellor Mordith of the Galactic Union. On behalf of all member species, I formally request your presence at an emergency council session." Morrison felt his heart beat faster. This was what they had hoped for, official contact with the galactic government. "High Chancellor, I am honored by your invitation. We accept." "Excellent. You will be escorted to Centauri Prime by our diplomatic fleet. The journey will take 3 standard days. This will give us time to prepare for your arrival and inform all member species of this historic event." The transmission ended, leaving Morrison and his crew alone with the magnitude of what was happening. "Sir," Grant said quietly, "we're really doing this. We're going to address the Galactic Council." "Yes, we are," Morrison replied. "Dr. Foster, I need you to prepare a complete briefing on human history. Focus on our development during the isolation period. Show them we've changed." As the Liberty began its journey to Centauri Prime, escorted by the alien diplomatic fleet, news of humanity's return spread across the galaxy like fire. On thousands of worlds, beings gathered around communication devices to hear the impossible. News. On the industrial world of Vex Prime, factory workers stopped their machines to listen to reports about the return of the ancient warriors. On the peaceful garden world of Serenity, philosophers debated what this meant for galactic civilization. Some species remembered humans as heroes who had saved the galaxy from the Devourers. Others remembered them as dangerous beings who could destroy entire fleets. Most had no direct memories at all, only stories passed down through generations. But everyone understood that something major was happening. The galaxy they knew was about to change. Back in the council chamber, War Marshal Grok Tar paced back and forth, his claws clicking on the metal floor. "We need to be ready for anything," he told his aide. "If these humans are hostile, we must be prepared to defend ourselves." Chief Scientist Lumiara had a different concern. "If they are truly human," she said to her research team, "they might have knowledge we have lost, technology, science, ways of thinking that could help U.S. solve problems we've struggled with for centuries." High Chancellor Mordith stood alone in her private chamber, looking out at the stars. She was old enough to remember the time before humans disappeared. The galaxy had been different then. More dangerous, but also more dynamic, more alive. Now they were coming back. And she wondered if the galaxy was ready for them. The Great Council Chamber of Centauri Prime had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 200 species filled every seat, balcony, and observation deck. News crews from across the galaxy broadcast live as Captain Morrison walked through the center aisle. Dr. Foster and Chief Engineer Hudson walked beside him, their footsteps echoing in the massive hall. Morrison wore his dress uniform, crisp and clean, with the flag of Earth on his shoulder. He carried himself with quiet confidence, but inside he felt the weight of 3,000 years of human history. High Chancellor Mordith floated above the central platform, her blue light casting shadows across the chamber. "Captain Morrison," she announced, "you stand before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Union. Please, tell us who you are and what humanity seeks." Morrison stepped forward and looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien faces stared back at him. Some looked curious, others worried, and a few appeared openly hostile. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's speakers. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. I speak for humanity and our colonies throughout the Sol system. We have returned to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as neighbors who wish to rejoin the community of civilized beings." A murmur ran through the crowd. Morrison continued, "We know that our sudden appearance has caused concern. We understand that to many of you, humans are legends, stories told of an ancient time. But we are real, and we are here with peaceful intentions." War Marshal Grok Tar stood up from his seat, his massive form drawing attention from across the chamber. "Captain Morrison, the stories say humans were warriors above all else. They say your species could fight when others could not. How do we know you have not come to conquer us?" Morrison had expected this question. "War Marshal, it is true that humans once fought great battles. The war against the Devourers forced us to become warriors, but war was never our choice. It was our necessity." He gestured to Dr. Foster, who activated a portable display. The screen showed images of human colonies, cities, and peaceful settlements throughout the Sol system. During our isolation, we chose a different path. We built, we learned, we grew. We have over 50 billion humans living throughout our home system, and not one of them has known war. We have created a society based on cooperation, not conflict. Chief Scientist Lumiaris light shifted to curious yellow colors. Captain, what technologies have you developed during your isolation? What knowledge might you share with us? Morrison smiled. This was a better question. We have advanced in many areas. Our medicine can cure diseases that plagued us during the war. Our energy systems are clean and efficient. Our ships can travel faster and farther than ever before. But perhaps most importantly, we have developed new ways to solve problems without violence. He nodded to Dr. Foster, who changed the display. Now it showed a recent encounter in the outer Sol system, where human ships had met unknown robotic vessels. 6 months ago, we encountered an unknown species of artificial beings in our outer system. They were aggressive at first, seeing us as a threat. The old humanity might have responded with weapons. Instead, we chose communication. We learned their language, understood their needs, and found a solution that benefited both sides. The recording showed human and robotic ships working together, sharing resources and technology. Today, those artificial beings are our partners. They help us build new ships, and we help them explore new worlds. This is the humanity that returns to you today. Representative Korthup raised a small paw. But Captain, if you have been watching us for so long, why return now? What has changed? Morrison paused, considering his words carefully. We return now because we believe the galaxy needs what we have learned. Not our weapons, but our experience. Not our strength, but our wisdom. Before he could continue, an urgent alarm sounded throughout the chamber. Emergency lights flashed red as officials ran to communication stations. High Chancellor Mordith received an urgent message through her personal communicator. Her blue light flickered with distress as she read the information. Delegates, she announced, her voice tense. We have just received reports from our outer territories. Long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures approaching from beyond known space. The chamber fell silent. Morrison felt ice form in his stomach. The energy patterns, Mordith continued, match ancient records from the Devourer. War, the enemy that was thought destroyed, has returned. Panic erupted in the chamber. Delegates shouted in fear, some demanding immediate evacuation, while others called for military action. The noise was deafening. Morrison looked at his officers. Dr. Foster's face was pale, while Hudson's jaw was set with grim determination. They all knew what this meant. War, Marshal Grokdar's voice boomed over the chaos. The Devourers have returned. We need the human warriors. They are the only ones who ever fought them successfully. All eyes turned to Morrison. The captain of a single ship suddenly found himself representing humanity's role in a galactic war. Captain Morrison, High Chancellor. Mordith called out, you spoke of peace and cooperation. But if the Devourers have truly returned, what will humanity do? Morrison stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. High Chancellor, humanity spent 3,000 years preparing for this possibility. We hoped it would never come. But we were ready if it did. He opened his communicator and spoke into it, his words broadcast throughout the chamber. Sol Command, this is Captain Morrison. Priority Alpha Protocol. The Devourers have returned. Activate all defense networks and prepare the fleet. The response came immediately, clear and strong. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Phillips of Earth Defense Command. Message received and understood. The fleet is mobilizing now. Morrison turned back to the assembled delegates. Honored beings, humanity offers you a choice. We can face this threat together, as partners, or you can face it alone. But know this, we will fight, whether you stand with us or not. Because that is what humans do when innocent beings are threatened. The chamber fell quiet as the weight of his words sank in. The return of humanity was no longer just a diplomatic curiosity. It was the galaxy's hope for survival. War. Marshal Grok-Tar stood again, but this time his voice carried respect rather than suspicion. Captain Morrison, the Saurian collective stands ready to fight beside humanity. One by one, other delegates rose to pledge their support. The crisis had transformed suspicion into alliance, fear into determination. High Chancellor Mordith's light grew brighter. Then it is decided. The Galactic Union and humanity will face this threat together. May the galaxy survive what is coming. Admiral Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of the EDS Defender, watching as hundreds of human ships emerged from quantum gates around Centauri Prime. The sight was magnificent and terrible at the same time. 3,000 years of preparation had led to this moment. Admiral, all fleet groups have reported in, announced Commander Beth Taylor from the communication station. We have over 800 ships ready for combat. Phillips nodded. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen 40 years of military service. She had trained her entire life for a war she hoped would never come. Captain Morrison is requesting permission to come aboard, Taylor reported. Granted. Send him to the bridge immediately. Minutes later, Morrison arrived with Dr. Foster and Chief Engineer Hudson. The three officers looked tired but determined. The past few days had changed everything for humanity. Admiral, Morrison said, the Galactic Council has given us full military authority to coordinate the defense. They're scared but ready to fight. Phillips studied the tactical displays around her. The Devourer fleet was still days away, but their energy signatures were growing stronger. What do we know about their current capabilities? Dr. Foster stepped forward, carrying a data tablet. I've been working with Union scientists to analyze the sensor readings. The Devourers have evolved during their time in the void. They're larger than before, and there are more of them. How many more? Phillips asked. At least 10 times the size of the fleet that attacked us 3,000 years ago, Hudson reported grimly. But they don't know what they're flying into. They expect to find the same defenseless galaxy they left behind. Phillips allowed herself a small smile. They're going to be very surprised. Across the galaxy, human defense networks that had been hidden for millennia came online. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids powered up. Shield generators hidden. In empty systems activated. The Sol system's true defensive capabilities revealed themselves for the first time. On Centauri Prime, High Chancellor Mordith watched the human fleet deployment with amazement. War Marshal Grok-Tar stood beside her. His earlier suspicion replaced by professional respect. Their organization is perfect, he observed. Every ship knows exactly where to go and what to do. This is not a fleet thrown together quickly. This is the result of centuries of planning. Commander Zixthek, who had been the first to discover the human ship, worked frantically at a communication station. His job was to coordinate between the human fleet and Union forces throughout the galaxy. Admiral Phillips, he called out over the communication channel. Union Fleet Group 7 is reporting strange readings in the Outer Rim. The Devourers are sending scout ships ahead of their main force. Phillips responded immediately. Understood. Commander, Human Battle Group 3 is moving to intercept. Tell your ships to stay back and observe. We need to see what we're dealing with. The first contact with Devourer scouts happened near the edge of Union space. 3 massive black ships, each the size of a small moon, emerged from the void between galaxies. They moved with deadly purpose toward the nearest inhabited system. They were met by 12 human ships led by Captain Ryan Walsh aboard the EZ Guardian. The human vessels were tiny compared to the Devourer scouts, but they moved with impossible speed and precision. Unknown vessels, Walsh broadcast on all frequencies. You are entering Galactic Union space. Turn back or be destroyed. The Devourers responded as they always had, with violence. Dark energy beams lashed out from their ships, capable of destroying entire planets. But the human ships were no longer where the beams were aimed. The Liberties. Improved engines and shield technology had been shared with the entire human fleet. The ships danced around the massive Devourer vessels like fighters around giants, striking precisely and moving before return fire could hit them. Direct hit. On Scout 1, reported Lieutenant Sarah Johnson from the Guardian's weapons station. Their shields are down 60%. Continue the attack, Walsh ordered. Show them what 3,000 years of preparation looks like. The battle lasted only minutes. All 3 Devourer scouts were destroyed, their wreckage floating in. Space is proof that they were no longer fighting the same enemy, but Phillips knew this was just the beginning. The main Devourer fleet would be much larger and more dangerous. Admiral, Dr. Foster called from her station aboard the Defender. I'm analyzing the wreckage from the scout battle. The Devourers have definitely evolved, but they're still using the same basic technology. Our countermeasures should be effective. Good, Phillips replied. But don't get overconfident. They'll adapt quickly once they realize what they're facing. The main battle came 3 days later. The Devourer fleet emerged from the void like a dark cloud, thousands of ships spreading across multiple star systems. They moved toward the heart of Union space, expecting easy conquest. Instead, they found a galaxy ready for war. Human defense networks that had been building for 3,000 years activated across dozens of systems. Automated weapons platforms, hidden bases, and trap systems that the Devourers had never seen before. But more importantly, they found a galaxy united. Human ships fought alongside Saurian destroyers and crystalline scouts. Dr. Foster's communication protocols allowed perfect coordination between species that had never worked together before. Captain Morrison led a combined human-alien task force in the decisive battle near Centauri Prime. The USS Liberty flew information with ships from 20 different species, all working together against the common threat. This is it, Morrison announced to the combined fleet. Everything we've trained for comes down to the next few hours. The battle was fierce, but not long. The Devourers had expected to fight the galaxy they remembered, not the one they found. Human weapons, designed specifically to counter Devourer technology, tore through their shields. Union ships, protected by human defensive systems, struck where the Devourers were weakest. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, the galaxy fell silent. Admiral Phillips to all ships, came the announcement over every communication channel. The Devourer fleet has been destroyed. The galaxy is safe. Cheers erupted across hundreds of worlds as the news spread. But on the bridge of the Defender, Phillips felt only quiet satisfaction. Captain Morrison joined her as they watched the combined fleet holding formation around Centauri Prime. Human and alien ships flying together, protecting each other. Admiral Morrison said, "What happens now?" Phillips looked out at the peaceful scene. Now we build something better. Not just human colonies or alien worlds, but a galaxy where everyone works together. She paused, thinking about the long journey that had brought them here. We spent 3,000 years learning that the strongest ship is the one that never has to fire its weapons. But when it does, it protects everyone behind it. Morrison nodded, understanding. The age of legends was over. The age of cooperation had begun. In the years that followed, human and alien children would grow up together on worlds throughout the galaxy. They would learn each other's languages, share each other's knowledge, and work together to solve problems that no single species could handle alone. The galaxy was no longer divided between myths and reality. It was united in the simple truth that together, they were stronger than any threat they might face.